Hey everybody, welcome to Q&A video number 43. Make sure to keep asking questions, doesn't matter they're about, they can be about anything. Just know that I don't respond to review requests or let's play requests in these videos, but we'll respond to them in the comments. You can post your questions in the comments below, you can send it to me via PM, or you can put them in the appropriate section of the forums or on my Steam group. There is an appropriate discussion topic for that. The game in the background is Call of Juarez Bound in Blood, because I've just been playing it recently, and it gives me headaches, which is kind of annoying, but anyway. We're going to start today with a question from Serious Hedgehog Co. What do you think of Steam Greenlight and Workshop? I like Workshop. It's a very easy way to just go on there, look for some mods, find some good mods, find some bad mods too, but find some great mods and then just very quickly and easily install them by saying subscribe to them, and then, of course, when you start the game up, it automatically downloads them. It's a great feature. I love it. As for Steam Greenlight, I think it's a good idea that's not 100% implemented yet, because there are a lot of bogus things that popped up on it when it first came out, and then they added in the fee, and then it's still pretty hard for developers to actually get enough support for their games. So I don't know. It's kind of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's actually a very good idea, being able to have community votes to say, hey, this game that maybe not everybody's heard of should be on Steam. It deserves attention. But at the same time, you have to get enough attention thrown toward it to actually get it eligible. So it's kind of all over the place. I like the idea. It's just, I don't think it's fully viable. It's not 100% well implemented yet. Next one's from RevUp26. Hey DW, what's your opinion on fan-made patches for unfinished or borderline unplayable games like Arx Liberatus? That might be misspelled. For Arx Fatalis or Circle of 8 for Temple of Elemental Evil. Depends on what they do. If they radically change the way the game is played from basically what it was originally meant to be, then it's not a good thing. If it's literally just bug fixes, or maybe there was some content that was bugged out and as a result wasn't complete, and then they fixed that. If it's just fixes, then it's fine. If it really alters the way the game plays, then I don't really like that. It's more of a mod than anything else. It's not really a patch. So something like the Circle of 8, which actually has two different versions if you get it. There's the version that keeps all of the stats pretty much like they were in the original Temple of Elemental Evil. It just implements all the fixes. That's fine. That's great. It basically just adds on to the game and makes sure it works fine. Whereas the other version of it allows you to completely basically restat the game. And I don't really care for that if it's just a patch. But in case of Circle of 8, it's actually a mod pack. It's kind of weird the way that's out. But I like fan-made patches, partly because it shows that the community actually has an interest in the game, and that if the developers literally can't fix things, or like in the case of Troika, for instance, with Temple of Elemental Evil, they did patch it, but it still had problems, and then Circle of 8 fixes the rest of those problems. That's great, considering especially that Troika no longer exists. So if something like that happens, where the developer literally can't go and fix these things because they just disappeared, or they're way too busy focusing on other projects or something like that, and there's really no reason to fix these games because they're, of course, games that have been out for quite some time, then that's fine. I quite like patches that are for that and make the game a much more playable and much more enjoyable experience. Next one's from Vengeant95. I was curious to see how I was curious to know your stance on free healthcare. Should we have it or shouldn't we? Should we or shouldn't we? That's always the question. And I think for basic care, basically preventative medicine, teaching people a healthy lifestyle, basic checkups every year, something like that, that's fine to have free. Because really that's something that we should all be doing anyway. But the more invasive stuff, like surgeries or much more in-depth treatments for certain diseases or something like that, not necessarily. Now, insurance should definitely cover those, and it would be very unethical if they didn't. But at the same time, if you make those free, then you run into a problem of the care not exactly being up to par. Now, granted, don't get me wrong, in countries with basically socialized medicine, their healthcare is perfectly fine, but the people with those rare conditions or those conditions that fall out of the norm tend not to get the best care they could be getting. And that's pretty much because the resources that are given to them by, of course, their respective funding just isn't there. They can't do it. They don't have that capability. Whereas without the free healthcare, they do. They can afford that sort of thing. So it's this double-edged sword. Some of it, sure, we can have that, and it wouldn't be that expensive to implement, like the yearly checkups, the preventative medicine saying, hey, you guys need to eat better, you need to exercise more, stuff like that. That's fine. That works pretty well as free healthcare, actually. But other stuff that's much harder to get, I guess is the way you should say it, not so much. Next one's from CJ138810. What do you like better, arcade FPS or modern military shooters? Why? I much prefer arcade FPS, but at the same time, I like modern military FPSs mostly because of the multiplayer. Because it's a very different style from an arcade shooter. Don't get me wrong, I love arcade shooter multiplayer as well, but it's got this much higher competitive feel to it, where it just almost oppresses you if you play it for too long. Whereas an MMS doesn't really do that. It's kind of frustrating at times, don't get me wrong, but it's certainly not that ultra-competitive thing where you must win, or you're just a failure or something like that. Now, that's not all arcade FPSs, but a lot of them are like that. But in general, I much prefer arcade FPSs, and MMSs are okay, but they're so stale at this point that why would I even bother with them very much anymore, you know? And the last one is from Lord Chaos. What are your thoughts on people who hate FPSs and say every FPS is the same and requires no skill? They haven't played every FPS. Moreover, if they don't like the genre, that's fine. I don't like all genres. I don't like friggin' racing games or sports games, but I don't sit there and say anything other than what I personally don't like about them, which is, of course, with racing games, I just don't like going around in a circle over and over and over again. And I don't like driving to begin with. That doesn't help. But something like that. I don't really care about their personal preference. That's their prerogative. But if they're sitting there going, oh, it requires no skill, and that they don't like the genre, then why are they even complaining about it in the first place? Now, if you really think that no FPS requires skill, then you really haven't played a lot of FPSs. Go play Quake. Go play Unreal Tournament. You will understand. Trust me. Anyway, that was Q&A 43. Make sure to keep asking questions, and I will catch you guys in later videos.